Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome to or back to my channel. Today I'm filming a self-care guide and I filmed a university Q&A where I kind of touched on self-care there, and I had some people reach out to me asking for a more detailed video. So here it is. So I'm going to talk through a bunch of the methods and strategies that I use for my self-care. These are the kind of things I do when I'm feeling anxious. I've had anxiety since I was a teenager, so for me self-care is a really vital part of my life, and it's something I do every day in one way or another to just keep my mental health in good balance and just keep myself feeling overall more calm, peaceful and grounded and happy. So I've got different categories for this and I'm going to talk through it, but I've also decided that I'm probably going to make a self-care like whole series on my channel, but let me know if you're interested in that. So let me know if that's something you'd like to hear more about. So something that has been my self-care go-to method since I was probably 13 has been writing in journals, and I've always ever since I was 13 had a journal, and this is my one currently. I have like a very busy mind, and it's probably one of the top methods to not just calm myself down but to process through everything that I'm thinking and feeling and just kind of move through all of it instead of bottle it all up. So with journaling I can put it all on the page or put whatever I want on the page. It's a tool that I have anywhere I go. For me it makes me feel less caught up in whatever is going on often, and it makes me able to see it with a different kind of perspective. Also, when you're able to read back over years of your writing, there's something there that's quite powerful to be able to see how you were thinking and feeling years and years later. It's pretty special, so I love that. I'm not so much like a journal prompt girl. I really enjoy just having a blank page, my journal, my pen, and nothing. Like I can write anything I want. I've tried prompt journals and I've tried different things, but this is what works for me. And I definitely will probably make a journaling video in another video, and I also do dream journaling, so that one I'll talk about too in more detail another time. But I basically have my normal journal and usually a dream journal. Sometimes it's the same. I remember reading an article about Emma Watson saying that she has 7 different journals going at the same time for different things, and I'm a little bit like that. I have this. And then I have recently started morning pages. I recently started reading The Artist's Way. I've read bits and pieces of this over the years. My mum's recommended this to me. And it's basically a 12-week program, and I've never done the program before, but I decided to do it now because I'm writing my dissertation, and it's 12 weeks to get in touch with your creativity and your inner artist and unblock any creative blocks that you have. It ties in very much with the journaling because one of the biggest aspects of doing this program is that every morning you write your morning pages. So you get up straight away and you start writing 3 pages every morning, and you can write a bit more, but you have to reach the 3. And it's kind of that thing. This is a little bit different to journaling because I journal whenever I feel like it. But this is a set time and practice, and it's like giving yourself that space every morning to write. And when you write whatever you want, whatever comes on the page, you go with it. And it's been really interesting for me because some days you don't feel like writing, but then you just do it and you realize that every day it's like a really helpful process. And she kind of talks about how it's important to get all these feelings that are like uncomfortable, difficult, challenging, or just things you don't even want to think about on the page, and get it out so that you can live your day without having those feelings take over your entire day. So it's a good way to also work through any kind of creative questions and things that are going on. My mum's a psychologist, so she's like recommended me a lot of good books, and those are usually my favorite ones. So this is one that I actually found when I went book shopping the other day, but I've heard about it before, like it's really famous. The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, and I've kind of just begun. So it's about discovering who you really are outside of your thoughts and this inner roommate in your head that like speaks up and has all these things to say. I'm finding that really interesting, and is a nice way to remind myself not to get stuck in my thoughts and in my mind and in my head all the time, which is something I do a lot, especially since I write. So now I'm going to show you the book that is the most important book in my life, and it is Women Who Run with the Wolves by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estés. And I've had this book for about 10 years. My mum gave it to me. I knew about this book when I was really young because my mum was always reading it. It's like basically her go-to most, again, special book in her that she's ever read too. So she gave me a copy of this when I was 15 and I read it all, but it took me a while to read the whole book because it is extremely rich. It's actually even hard to talk about this book because it means so much to me, and also it is so powerful and poignant, and it really takes a long time to digest everything in here, and it's almost impossible to put into words the experience of reading this book. And for me, it spoke to me on just such a deep level. Dr. Estés is a Jungian psychologist, and she writes with fairy tales, so she talks about different aspects of womanhood through story. And on the back it says, she reveals how within every woman there lives a wild woman filled with passionate creativity and ageless knowing, but repressed for centuries by a value system that trivializes emotional truth, intuitive wisdom, and instinctual self-confidence. Dr. Estés' enriching bestseller shows how through the interpretation of story and her psychological commentary, we can reclaim and rejoice in our true feminine power. This is like, to me, a must read. And I honestly could never have gotten through my teenagehood, young adulthood without this book. She is one of my biggest inspirations ever as a storyteller and as a human being. I've pretty much marked every page in here. This is like one of my most prized possessions, and this is the OG book that I've had for so many years. For me, often like books about psychology or like self-help or self-care are too surface level and only really just barely skim the surface, and this book is the deepest book I've ever read in my entire life. And so this is a book that is like one of the ultimate sources of comfort for me and wisdom, so highly recommend. Talking about books, I find that one thing for me that really helps with my mental health in general is to kind of have a time in the day to read and to set it aside from TV and from studying and from working and from anything else, and just make sure that I like read at some point in the day. I usually like to read before I go to sleep as well, because I've been learning about sleep hygiene, and it's really important to not have blue light before, like in the hours before going to sleep, which is sometimes hard to do. So I just try to like get off my phone at a certain point, ideally in the hour before going to sleep, or even just half hour. I'm in bed like reading a book or writing in my journal, and sometimes I'm watching a movie or something, so I will put on blue light blocking glasses. That really helps me to actually sleep at night, and when you sleep well then you feel just a lot better in the day. And so like to me, sleep underpins a lot of just mental health in general. Another really main part of my self-care is meditation, and I've been meditating in different ways since I was a child, and meditation is really important to me. I've talked to my friends about meditation, and a lot of people are like want to try it but don't know how, or have tried it and find it hard to focus. And the thing with meditation is there's so many different methods, so it's like if you find one that doesn't work for you, keep trying different ones and see what you feel most aligned to and that you need at that time. And for me, it like changes at different times too. So there's types of meditations that I do that are just, you know, self-led, and ones that I've learned. And then I also use some meditation apps, and I've tried so many different ones. And I'm a little bit skeptical about it too, because I don't love having to rely on my phone to meditate, but I think it's a good way to easily make sure that you meditate. And I try to meditate every day, either in the morning or at night. And sometimes I find that the apps help me to just maintain a consistent routine with that. But you don't need apps. If you want to have a guided meditation, you can go on YouTube, there's videos there, or you can use an app. So Deepak Chopra has really good guided meditations on YouTube, and he also has an app called Presence, and I do daily ones on there usually because they have like a huge selection. There are certain meditation teachers that I really like on there, but you can also go on YouTube and listen to Deepak Chopra meditations, Gabriella Wright meditations, and I will link some in the description below. If you find those meditations helpful, then maybe you would like also the app. For me, that's been my favorite meditation app that I have ever tried, and I've tried a lot. While we're talking about apps, I also really like having an astrology app, and I know not everyone's into astrology, but I feel like it can be quite helpful. Some of these apps do have meditations on there, so there's an app called Soul Loop and Chani app. They have daily horoscopes, and I sometimes find that just helpful to kind of frame my like the experiences that I'm having, especially if I'm like having a tough week or something. They have podcasts where you can listen to like what's going on astrologically, and sometimes it aligns in a really interesting way. yeah, and it's quite comforting to hear that. So I enjoy those two apps as well. So I also used to have the Aura Ring, but it broke. That was really helpful for me too, because they had meditations on there too, but you could see how everything you were doing in your day was affecting your body. I really feel that the mind and the body are so interlinked, so if you're wanting to take care of one, you need to take care of the other as well. That goes into food and nutrition, and like eating. When I'm eating healthy, it makes my mind feel a lot better too. But also I never really, I think I placed a lot of emphasis on exercise. Like growing up, I didn't really love exercise except for dance and yoga. I started exercising more recently, and I've noticed not just a difference in feeling like stronger and healthier in my fitness, but also so much more like grounded in my mind. That has been quite a big finding for me, and it's nothing like new and groundbreaking because everybody knows that exercise is important for your mental health. And I've been doing Pilates and reformer and dance and yoga and just walking in general and swimming. So I think it's just about finding some kind of form of movement and exercise that makes you feel happy and good and that you enjoy. And I've tried different classes and different things, and what I find is, like, for example, reformer Pilates, I just love it so much, or even mat Pilates, because as soon as you go in, I actually had a meditation teacher and she said that like the mat you sit on is your space and nobody else can come in that space, and this is all you need to focus on and nothing else right now for that time that you're in the class. So yeah, for me, when I go into like reformer or Pilates or something, or yoga, it's just an hour that makes me feel so much better for the day. Especially Pilates, where it's like quite a challenge on your muscles and your body. I'm not really thinking about anything in that time that I'm on the reformer or on the mat. I'm just focusing on the class. It's sometimes hard to get out of my mind and my thoughts in my head, so I found that some types of exercise is really good for that. Like I end up being more productive and feeling just happier all day. Yeah, and it's been a really, really good and central part of my self-care. In particular, yoga for me is like the most calming, centering and just like meditative experience, because it's about the body and the mind, and I really, really love yoga and have always loved it. And if you haven't tried it, I would really recommend. And there's also YouTube videos you can try too, with yoga and mat Pilates and just anything you're interested in. You can always give it a try in different ways and then find a class near you or something like that. So talking about like looking after your physical body, just like with nutrition and food, where it's important the kind of ingredients and what kind of food you're eating. For me, it's really important the kind of ingredients that I'm putting on my skin too. I found this app called the Yuka app that I really use all the time. I've been using it for years now. I've always been interested in clean skincare, but Yuka makes it really easy to make sure that your skincare is clean, because a lot of brands label their products in that way even if it isn't organic or clean. And so with Yuka, I just like scan everything when I'm in a shop. You get like a ranking of out of 100, like, and it goes into green, orange or red, and you really want your products to be in the green. I am going to film a skincare video, but for me it's like less important what exact products you're using. It's more important that those products have all good ingredients. Yeah, it's an app I use all the time and I find it really helpful, and it's a tip that I give to so many people, and it means that I'm actually really not using that many products because what I do have is good and it's not causing me and my skin more problems. So that's a big part of my self-care too, is just making sure that like what I use is clean. There's little things I add to my routine just to make me feel like it's even more of a special part of the day. So like, for example, skincare that I do every single day. Some days when I just need a little bit of extra self-care, I'll just add in my gua sha and I will do that, and I'll just sit there and I won't do anything else, and it makes me feel really calm. And it's just, I think it's about, we live in this world where we're constantly, at least for me, like constantly studying, reading, working, writing, and also constantly tapped into my phone or my computer or some kind of screen often. Sometimes it's really important to just take a moment and like do none of that and, you know, do something that's going to make you feel grounded and peaceful. So this is my gua sha that I love. It's from Synthesis Organics and I've got an affiliate link with them, so I will link it down below. This one's one of my favorite gua shas. It's jade and it's really nice to use an actual crystal because it just has like a different kind of energy to using metal or something else. So this is very much one of my go-tos just to like elevate something that I do every day anyways. Another method is just having a hobby. I think, as I said, we spend so much time online and on social media, and so I've found ways to swap out like the urge to scroll with something else. A lot of time we get on our phones in the mornings, and instead I like to journal or read something then, but it's in the evenings where I like to scroll often. So I find that I need to swap it out with like a hobby or something that I really enjoy doing just for the sake of doing it. Like for example, drawing or reading. What I've re-found recently has been knitting and like crafts, and I always grew up crocheting and knitting, and just it's always been something I really love. And so I've come back to it recently, and I just knit a whole cardigan, and I loved it so much because you can knit while you're talking to people, or you can knit while you're watching TV, or you can do other things, but your hands are busy and you're making something, and it's nice to do something that just makes you happy, that's not like for any reason other than that. But there's also been a lot of studies recently that show that like knitting and making things with your hands reduces anxiety and just calms your overall nervous system, so it definitely works for me. I actually used Cardigan, the knitting kit, for the first time to make this cardigan, and it was really fun, and it was nice because everything just came in the one kit and you just got to make it, and there was a pattern and it was easy to follow, and it was just really fun. So I'll link that down below too if you're interested. So another thing that I found really helpful, I actually did it during the pandemic, which was a time where my mental health was at one of its worst points, like many other people, and so I started doing the happiness course with Yale, and it was, I think, The Science of Well-Being by Dr. Laurie Santos, and I found it really helpful, and I think it was on for like free access then. It might still be, I'll find it and link it below. And she had researched happiness and found that a lot of students post-grad were really, it was like a time of unhappiness for a lot of people at the end of university and after graduating, and so they made this program for seniors in college to take, where they would learn skills to maintain and develop happiness. And so I did that program. I think my whole family did it, and I ended up recommending it to so many friends. So a bunch of us were doing that during the pandemic, and I really want to get back to it, but some of the skills that she taught I still think about a lot now, and one of them was like gratitude and having a gratitude journal, and I find that's another journal that I sometimes have going, even if you don't write about it, just to think about it. It makes my mental state feel completely different. And then she also has a method called savoring, where you're like savoring the things that you love, and I guess it's just about changing the attention and the focus towards these things that create happiness, love, gratitude. That's been something that I think about a lot too, and I think that's why it's like things like knitting and things like reading and just being outside and in nature and being with loved ones makes me feel like it's like the ultimate self-care, because it's focusing on something that brings joy and happiness. A conversation with my mum or my sister or my friend can just completely change how I feel, and so like sometimes self-care is also just having like not just all to do with being alone on your own doing things to make yourself feel better. It's also interacting with other people and being there for other people, and also choosing to be around people that you feel good around. The more that I make this video, the more I realize that like a huge part of my life is thinking about these things, and my mum's a psychologist, so I've grown up with a lot of interest in self-care and in just mental health and everything in general, but I also have struggled with anxiety, and so it's something that I'm just really passionate and interested in myself. There's such little things like in my space that I do just to make me feel a little bit more peaceful and happy, and for me it's important to feel like there's a special time in the day where I can just kind of zone out of the internet and everything and just focus on something that makes me feel really peaceful and good. So it's nice to light a candle and just have a cup of tea and read a book or something, and I try to do something like that every day. If you feel that you don't have time in the day for self-care, even if you just incorporate a little bit of it into like a part of your day that you have as your routine already, like there's some really small things that you can do for self-care, and one of them is getting sunlight. Vitamin D is so essential to your well-being, like physically and mentally and emotionally, but it's also really important to just get out in the sun. And so I try to get out, take my dog for a walk or go read outside somewhere, and it sets me up for my day. It's almost like recharging, and that's like the simplest self-care method that I can think of, but it really works. And then another really small thing is I love my caffeine tea. I don't drink coffee, but I love caffeine tea, and I drink it in the morning, like English breakfast, Earl Grey, all of those teas. But then I change over to herbal tea in the evening, and like it's just a lot better to not have that in the afternoon. I find self-care very empowering because it's the kind of thing that you do for yourself, and so it makes me feel as if I have some ability to change the way I feel and the way I'm thinking, and that's really quite empowering. And my mum always used to talk about that when my sister and I were younger, about like having a mental health day where you really do take purposeful care of your mental health, and that looks a lot like doing many of these self-care things, at least for me. I just hope that some of these methods might help anybody who is looking for new tips with self-care, and I'm sure a lot of these are already very familiar to many of you, and it's no one size fits all. There's no one way to feel, you know, like you're looking after yourself and to look after your mental health, and it's so individual. But that's why I just think trying different things for me has been the best way to find what it is that helps me. For my friends, some of the things that I love doesn't work for them, and so it's really just about trying these different things. So I'll make sure to link in the description here as many YouTube videos or, you know, sources. So that's basically everything I want to talk about in this video, but as I said, I really feel that I'm really passionate about self-care and mental health, so I want to make a series about this and go into more depth. This is very much covering quickly different areas that I find helpful, and if you are interested in any particular area to hear about in more depth, then please let me know and I will make more videos. Please tell me if any of these are helpful, or if you have any tips of your own and any kind of self-care methods that you use that you find really helpful. I'd love to know, and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will be back again next week with more. So yeah, thank you for watching.